When people think of the classic Star Wars Battlefront games, their minds often go straight to the classic Star Wars Battlefront 2, and why shouldn't it? It's a classic for a reason. But in this video, I want to compare it to the often forgotten original classic from 2004 to see if it holds up against its masterpiece of a sequel. So guys, this is going to be a direct comparison of the classic Star Wars Battlefront from 2004 versus its direct sequel, Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2005. Guys, this is a direct comparison video that I've been really looking forward to making, so I hope you guys enjoy watching it as much as I've enjoyed making it for you guys. And if you do like the video, be sure to drop a like on it because it helps the little video reach new fans, and that's always a good thing. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Live from My Basement, where I make cool new videos like this one that you're watching right now every single week. And if you want to support the channel even further, be sure to check out my memberships. There's cool perks over there, and it helps keep the lights on. The lights on. You blew it. It helps pay for my dialect coach, and it also pays for dog food for my Winnie, so all good things. Let's start this video. God damn. One thing that I think people often forget when they think about the classic Battlefront games is that they both can be played in first person, but the original Battlefront does have an edge because whenever you enter any vehicle in first person, you can actually see the cockpit of the vehicle that you're driving. It doesn't matter whether you're flying a snowspeeder on Hoth, or an Imperial AT-AT, or a starfighter, or one of the multitude of vehicles from the Clone Wars. It doesn't matter. If you're playing the game in first person and you enter a vehicle, you will be able to see the interior cockpit of the vehicle that you're driving. While in Battlefront 2, when you enter a vehicle in first person, the cockpit view is removed entirely. It feels more like your head is sticking out of the windshield of the vehicle that you're driving, and in other cases, it will just force you into the third person perspective when you enter a vehicle. It's just a shame because this feature cut from the classic Battlefront made the game feel that much more immersive in first person, and I would have loved to see this built upon in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I mean, can you imagine the space battles in that game if you could see the interior cockpit of your starfighter? It'd be incredible. And while we're on the subject of vehicles, one thing that Battlefront Classic does that I find interesting is that the maps that have starfighters actually have the starfighters on the map, whereas in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the starfighters are restricted just for space battles, while Star Wars Battlefront Classic has its starfighter battles on the same maps as the infantry combat. So while you're having these intense infantry battle sections, you can look up in the sky and see the starfighters dogfighting. It's awesome. And this adds a lot of life to the battle because on certain maps like Geonosis, the LAAT gunships are actually providing fire support to the troopers on the ground, and they're not just a part of the skybox as they are in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Moving on to a nice refresh from Battlefront Classic to Battlefront 2 is the character models used for the clone troopers in Battlefront Classic, going from exclusively Phase 1 clone troopers to the Phase 2 clone troopers that we see in Star Wars Battlefront 2. This added a good bit of diversity to the clone troopers seen on the battlefield, but one thing I found pretty interesting is that if you're playing on a map like Geonosis or Camino, the Phase 1 trooper classes from Battlefront 1 return in Battlefront 2, but with some slight improvements, like the character models looking a bit sharper. But one thing I really thought was cool is like with the ARC Trooper with the rocket launcher, you could actually see the fabric around his waist moving in Battlefront 2, whereas it was pretty static in Star Wars Battlefront Classic. Moving on now to one of my favorite features from Battlefront Classic that was cut from Battlefront 2, the ability to give your AI squad mates orders with the directional pad. As you can see here in Star Wars Battlefront, I gave these troopers the order to follow me, and they will continue to follow me until I give them the order to disperse.
Right away, sir. Disperse. I need cover fast.
These commands are pretty simple, but it's pretty awesome to give an order to the pilot of the LAAT that you're riding in to hold her steady so that you can take the perfect shot or rally a group of AI soldiers to help you rush an objective. It's one of those features that I can't believe wasn't built upon in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I miss it every single time I play the game. Another pretty cool feature that was cut from Battlefront Classic that a lot of people tend to forget about is that you could actually go prone in the original Star Wars Battlefront, and your AI would do this as well. I'm sure this was cut for balancing reasons for multiplayer, but I gotta say, it's pretty cool to be able to get down and take cover behind lower cover. And though it has less concealment, at least in Star Wars Battlefront 2, you can still crouch to take cover. Another thing that I find interesting about Star Wars Battlefront Classic is that the clone troopers are voiced by the same actor who plays them in the Star Wars films. All of the clone troopers in Battlefront Classic use this voice, including the commentator that tells you when you've captured command posts, which makes sense.
We've lost a command post.
Though in Battlefront 2, the same actor does narrate the campaign, in actual gameplay they used completely different voices for the troopers and the commentator. Another really cool part of these games is that certain maps have AI factions that are native to the planet that you're playing on, like the Ewoks being on Endor between both games. But one really cool thing about Battlefront Classic is there's certain maps like the Dune Sea that have Tusken Raiders that serve neither side. They actually serve as their own independent faction and will fight anybody that comes in front of them, and even have their own command posts that are yellow. But if we're talking about alien factions, you gotta mention Star Wars Battlefront 2's Hunt Mode, which actually lets you play as some of these alien factions, whether you're a Wampa on Hoth or an Ewok on Endor. It's awesome. Another interesting comparison is that Star Wars Battlefront Classic actually has no sprint, making the player have to choose their path very deliberately, because backtracking can eat up a lot of time and ultimately cost you the match. While obviously sprint was added in Star Wars Battlefront 2, making traversal across the larger maps a bit easier and backtracking a bit more forgiving in the heat of battle. One thing I've always appreciated between these two games is actually the cartwheel physics that your character will do when he's standing too close to an explosion. It's pretty comical. But one thing I did notice about Battlefront Classic is that when you do get cartwheeled through the air in that game, there are actually quite a few instances where cartwheeling doesn't actually mean you're dead. You actually just got knocked down. You stand up and you go back to fighting. This doesn't really happen at all in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Chances are in Battlefront 2, if you're cartwheeling through the air, you're dead. Whereas in Battlefront Classic, there's a chance you can pull through and survive. I always thought that was pretty cool. And my final comparison between these two games will actually be of the heroes between these games, because there's a lot of people that don't know that there are actually Jedi and Sith in the original Star Wars Battlefront. You just have to toggle them on. And they are quite a bit different than what you see in Battlefront 2. In Star Wars Battlefront Classic, they are actually invulnerable. You cannot kill them. Your best chance is to actually throw them off the map using explosives, but they are invulnerable. It doesn't matter how much you shoot them, they just won't die. While in Star Wars Battlefront 2, you can actually play as heroes, which is a huge step forward, using their force powers, wielding the lightsaber yourself. It's always awesome, and an obvious leap forward. Well guys, this has been my direct comparison of the classic Star Wars Battlefront versus Star Wars Battlefront 2. Both amazing Star Wars games, some of the best Star Wars games ever made. And I know that a lot of people tend to forget about the original Star Wars Battlefront, but there's some awesome things there that game did that the sequel did not do. And I feel like the perfect Star Wars Battlefront game would be a mixture of of these two games. Oh my god, this video is gonna get demonetized. All I'm saying is that if Star Wars Battlefront 2 had kept those missing elements from Battlefront Classic and built upon them and made them better, then Star Wars Battlefront 2, an already amazing game, would be that much better. It would be absolutely fantastic. And I love to imagine like a Battlefront 3 that didn't get canceled, that had these missing elements but improved upon them, like the order system, giving your AI teammates orders, and really fleshing out that first person perspective and making it feel as good as it does in third person. I mean, it would be incredible. I love thinking about what that game could have been like, but alas, we live in this broken ass timeline. But guys, that's all I have for this video. Be sure to let me know down in the comments, which game do you have fun playing? Is it Battlefront Classic? Is it Battlefront 2? Is it both? What do you guys think of the comparisons? Is there something I missed? Let me know down in the comments. But guys, as I said, that's all I have for this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.